All right, welcome back to the Real Friends podcast. We should just start calling this the Mike's Basement podcast.
I like the...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to do this in the basement. Like I said, it's a very public access feel.
Yeah.
We don't even have a ceiling. It's just insulation.
Yep. So, stick around for the end of this episode. We are talking about Teddy Told Me To from 2023. And the reason we're talking about this movie is that, not long after Mr. Gil Bronco reached out for us to review Halloween Feast, an actor by the name of Michael Shields reached out and told us about this movie. And we actually have an exclusive interview with him. So I'm going to put that at the end of this episode. So he plays the Teddy serial killer in this one. So just real quick before we do initial thoughts, so this is directed by Tom Devlin. He's a very well-known person in the horror world for his special effects. And I realize he's a Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he's from East Stroudsburg.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, I believe it was when he was living here, he went on the show Face Off on Sci-Fi and won for his character Teddy. And so, people were asking him for a long time, are you going to make a Teddy movie? So he finally did. So this is his directorial debut. He has made 4 other films since. Mr. Shields talks about that in our interview, and he also gives us an exclusive thing on a movie they haven't even announced yet.
Oh,
that's
really?
Coming out. So
really?
Yeah.
But I went back after watching this and looked at pictures from that season and saw the original Teddy makeup, and it was just like it was in the movie.
Yeah.
Looked good. I really enjoyed it.
And he owns like a haunted house in Las Vegas.
It's like a monster museum or something. That's what they call it. Yeah.
So it's where this was filmed. They used throughout the day they would do the haunted house stuff, and then at 10 p.m. when they closed, they would start filming the movie.
Okay.
So when you see the camera footage of the people walking around, that's just people walking around his haunted house. And Teddy was one of the characters that was there for a few years before they made this movie, and Mr. Shields played that. So this is his acting debut. First thing he was ever in.
Okay, cool.
So, man, give me your initial thoughts. What did you think?
Okay, so I watched it yesterday, and it was everything I expected of going into this. And it was actually even better than I thought because... I really like the haunt element, because one of the things that I really like about horror movies is like the scenery and everything, and establishing this in a haunt with all the masks, all the gore, all the like the props and everything that they had. Like I really enjoyed the setting of the film. I enjoyed that in the third, is it the third act? I guess it would be considered a third act. The last 30-40 minutes of this is an all-out, no holds barred bloodbath. Massacre. Yeah. And I really like that.
Yeah, it's such a simple idea, right? Yeah. That a serial killer movie in a haunted house, but it created such an awesome atmosphere because you don't know if it's real or if it's not, right? Like as patrons and everything else, like you don't know, like, there's one scene we'll talk about, but the guy walks out and he's like, oh dude, a chainsaw fight.
Yep.
This looks so realistic. Like, and it was, he's just killing him. I really enjoyed this. I've watched it a couple times now. I told Mr. Shields in the interview, like, I went from not knowing anything about this movie to it being one of my favorite, like, B-rate slasher movies.
Yeah, like an indie slasher. Yeah, it had all the elements, and I was even thinking that, like, near the closer to the end of it, I was like, this is something like early Rob Zombie might have done.
Right.
I thought that was really cool, and even seeing the different masks that people had when they were being interviewed. Yeah. Like when they were doing the casting call part. I was like, wow, this a lot of these masks I've seen even locally here in Lewistown with the Hidden Screams haunt. Right. And so I was thinking, oh, this is cool. Like, this is really neat. This is, and one of the things that a lot of audiences like is relatable, right? Like you could see this happening here. It's not too far fetched. Yeah. I mean, obviously it does get really far fetched, but the haunt, the haunt aspect of it is definitely something that could happen even right here with Hidden Screams that we have here in Lewistown. Yeah.
And I was telling, I don't know if you noticed it in one of the interviews, but the guy's talking about how he worked at Field of Screams.
Yes.
And Field of Screams is right here.
Yep.
Right?
I kept looking. I was like, okay, Field of Screams, Jason's Woods. I was like, he didn't mention Bates Motel. Bates Motel's one outside of Philly.
Yeah.
But that was neat how like he listed all those off. That was the Chainsaw guy.
Yeah.
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 That was cool.
He played Jason in one of the Friday the 13th movies.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know the guy who gave him the keys, C.J. Graham, played Jason in, I think, part 6.
Okay, I think this guy was part 3 or part 4, is what Michael told me.
So part 3 was Richard Brooker. He has passed away.
Okay.
Part 4, maybe you're right.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure about that. Maybe C.J. Graham was part 4. I don't know, but I know, it did have a lot of cameos. I'm sure we'll talk about that too.
Right.
Which even with all the just since you brought it up, the cameo part, like since you brought it up, I also watched an interview with the director from like Nightmare Toys podcast around the same time that this movie came out. That was like 2023.
Yep.
And he had said about going to the conventions and things like that, and even so not only did the director have like the special effects doing that on movies, meeting these people, but he also went to cons as well and was able to meet people as well. And there was a lot of familiar faces for folks that go on the con circuit and go to the different horror cons and everything. There's a lot of familiar faces in this film.
Yeah, and he knows, he's been working in special effects forever. Like, that's why he moved to Las Vegas. So he knew a bunch of people from working on movies, too.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. But yeah, let's just kind of get into it, right? I really enjoyed the opening because it was pretty comical, right? Like it was very true to how things are today, like with YouTubers and influencers. Like, it opens with this guy named Justin Scared.
Yeah, he's a real guy.
Oh,
right. So
I didn't know that.
So I guess he's a real guy, and like one of the reviews for this movie was because I also wanted to go because the ending. We'll have to talk about the ending, but I wanted to go to reviews of what other people thought, and some people were like, "Oh, I hate gore. The only reason I watched this because Justin Scared's in it." And I was like, "Okay, so Justin Scared's like a real guy."
I mean, that's smart though, because we talked about that with Lynn Lowry in Halloween Feast, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're making like an independent film, you need to have people in it you can market, and so to go out and get actual influencers is really smart.
Yeah. So there's bookends to this movie, right? So you have Justin Scared at the beginning, and then you have, I think his name's Jason the Carpetbagger or something, the Carpetbagger at the end. That's another YouTube person. Okay. YouTube personality there too.
That makes that even more interesting, because I just thought they were playing YouTube influencers.
No, I think they're real. I mean, from what I understand, and people can comment and correct me if I'm wrong and say, "Oh no, they're not real." So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So he's doing one of those check out this crazy haunted place. Like, I'm gonna go in here by myself, right? And it showed us on the bottom of the screen that it was 6 days prior that he was live. So we know the movie takes place 6 days after whatever we're about to see. And he tells us that the legend of this place is that at one point patrons were killed, and it wasn't part of the act. They were actually murdered in the haunted house.
Right.
So yeah, he starts walking around, and he gets ganked. Like
yeah. And then that's where I was thinking, okay, now it's gonna cut, and he's gonna get up, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, how was that? How was that?"
Yeah.
I thought he was be cleaning himself up, like, "Hey, what do you guys think?" But nope, he was really dead.
Yeah,
he really got killed.
Which we find out from our, main characters then, right? Because it snaps, and Danny and Zoe are actually watching that video on their phone. And Zoe's like, "Do you think it's real?" And he's like, "I don't know." She's like, "Well, it's been 6 days, and this guy posts every day, and he hasn't posted since." So it definitely clues us into, no, he's actually dead. And then, you talk about cameos. I mean, then we meet Jan. Right, and she's from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. That's Lisa Wilcox. I really like that. I wish she would have been in it more. That was cool to see, because I don't think I've really seen a lot with her post Nightmare. Yeah, but that was cool. I mean, she's really done a lot in the horror genre, as well as she does cons too. Oh, okay. Yeah,
and she was really funny, right? Because she's the real estate agent that is too scared to go in the haunted house. Yeah. She's like, "If you see any squatters in there, let me know," right? So we Danny and Zoe are walking around and they see that every single prop from the old haunted house is still there.
Yeah.
And that convinces them that they're going to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, imagine how lucky you would be.
Right.
You walk into a haunt and it's like already set up.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Now, there's a whole montage, which we'll get into that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but like they have the basis, the costumes, like everything's
costumes,
there.
like the zombie props, the body parts. They even had like one of the things I thought was interesting that I noticed was like they had mask making plasters and molds, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Someone left that there.
Yeah,
I'd be making some masks and stuff like that.
Which
all day long.
I'm assuming the owners and everyone were killed, right?
Yeah,
like that's what it wants us to assume. So like it was just left there because it's abandoned with all the dead people. And then it jumps into, and I thought this was incredible, the opening sequence that was almost like a TV show, right? Where it has the title screen and like, you know, they took some music and made it their own, like horror themed.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool. And it's an original song about Teddy. Like, it's what they did.
Yeah, that is neat. I think almost all the songs were original.
I think so,
right?
Yeah.
Because, can I just talk about the montage?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get back to the hiring process. But once everyone is hired, they have like a team bonding thing. And this was like really cool because I related like, you know, whenever you shoot a film, you shoot a movie, there is like those like bonding things, and it makes like... you become tighter as like a cast and crew, you know? So even during that, when they were cleaning and painting and just becoming a team that they were going to work at this haunt, there's a song that plays over that. I think it's called like Everybody's Haunting for the Weekend or something like that. And it's like a riff on Everybody's Working for the Weekend by like this 80s song called like Lover Boy or something. Like I used to play that at like this old job I had. It was called the Jukebox. And it was like a nostalgia kind of place. Yeah. And they played this song all the time. And so I was like, oh my gosh, how did they get the rights to that song? And then I heard the lyrics. I was like, everybody's haunting for the... And like all the lyrics were changed to be about a haunt and yelling, screaming, scaring, and I was like, that's awesome. I thought that song was really neat.
Well, and, you know, I don't know much about, like, haunted house culture and things like that, but, you know, it seemed like a big deal that all of the characters were allowed to create their own character and their own rooms. Like, they were just given full creative rights, like, go do it.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, you know, in real haunts, maybe they had to be approved, you know, but in this movie, they were just whatever you want, because a lot of these people that showed up for the the interview process, they were kind of kooky.
Yeah,
you know?
They were. And there's not much before the interview process, so we can get there, right? They're just kind of going around town, putting up flyers. Yeah. And IT guy Jimmy shows up and is a total awesome loser.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
nah, he like reminded us like someone like I would know, you know? It was like...
total horn dog, which you know that's gonna pay off later.
And he like seems like he's a know-it-all too. Yeah. Like he's too cool, you know. But he was like, he was there for it, and everyone should worship him, you know. Yeah. He's here. Hey, everybody, look at me.
I can handle it. You know, I got it. I got all this.
Yeah. He's too cool.
Yeah, but then we meet the guy you were talking about, the groundskeeper Ron. And it's so funny. It's so awkward when he first comes out, right?
Yeah.
Because they're told, like, which is so funny for a real estate agent to be like, hey, be there in 15 minutes. Like, you'll get the keys, right? And they're standing there and they're bitching. They're like, it's been 25 minutes and he's still not here, right? And he just ominously opens the door. And he was a giant.
Yeah.
Like, what a massive, frightening human. Like, I think the idea with that is they want the audience to think he's the serial killer.
Yeah. But then he mentions his brother be coming around at some point. You
his
know?
brother Eric.
And plus he had that big knife on him too.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, he was intimidating. But I was like, first I saw it, I was like, oh, that's C.J. Graham, you know?
Yeah.
He's got a machete, you know? It's like,
yeah.
But then he mentions the brother, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what the brother looks like. I wonder what the brother's doing.
Yeah.
You know? So that kind of changed my thought path.
Right. And he gives us our backstory, right? Like he says that, you know, there was a 10-year-old boy, there was a boy about 10 years ago that, you know, put on a bear mask and killed a bunch of people. He killed a lady, and then he killed his family. And now he's in an insane asylum.
Yeah.
Is what he said. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And then, yeah, like you said, he mentions his brother Eric, and then it's pretty important for us to note about the machete is he hands it to Jimmy. And he's like, you're going to need this.
Yeah.
Which, again, you know, I mean, we talk about, I mean, this is an independent movie, but, like, the writing's good because everything matters. Everything they do and say matters in this movie.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the auditions, right? Like, I talked about Tom Devlin, how he owns the Monster Museum. Like, I'm convinced that a lot of these auditions are things he's seen. People have come in and actually auditioned as that, and he was like, oh, sick, or he was like, absolutely not.
Yeah. There was like the guy who came in with the mustache who ended up getting hired as like a ringmaster, you know? I thought, I've seen that guy before somewhere, you know? There's always one of those like impresario dudes, you know, with the curly cues and everything. I'm like,
and just
okay.
And just telling them, like, I'm sure somebody's come into Tom Devlin's Monster Museum and told them, like, yeah, I was addicted to heroin, but I'm not now.
Yeah.
You know?
And then I'm off the energy drinks, you know, which, you know.
Do you have any energy drinks? No. Oh, that's cool. I'm not drinking those anymore.
I don't drink those anymore. And then there's one guy who shows up and he's like, he's really dorky. And they say he's hired. And then he keeps coming back in different, like, outfits. And they're like, dude, we already said you're hired, you know? It's like, what are you doing?
He's like, I know, I told you, I'm your guy.
Yeah. It was cool when he came in and then Tunneler from Puppet Master, because I know that Tom Devlin says that those Full Moon was a lot of the things that he watched, a lot of things he wanted to do. Yeah. And he did work on Killjoy, a few Killjoy 3, 4, and 5, I think he stated. And the guy that guy who was already hired, he came in as Tunneler, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and Mr. Shields was telling me that one of the actors in this is from Killjoy.
Yeah, that's Trent Haga.
Okay.
So he actually played Killjoy in 3, 4, maybe, I don't know if there's 5 or 6 of those movies. I'm not sure.
Who does he play in this?
He's the dad.
Oh, okay.
He plays the dad of the little boy.
Big Ted?
Yeah, Big Ted.
Okay.
Yeah, he plays Big Ted.
In the flashback, anyhow.
Yeah, in the flashback. So then I guess we'll get to there's a lot that happens between now and the ending.
Yeah. But. So just a couple highlights of people I saw come in, like Duke, right, the chainsaw guy. He's from Field of Screams. Then we have the hot vampires, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they were the makeup girls, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the vamps, like Sin, and I forget what the other one's name was.
Yeah,
but one
I'm
was
not
like
sure.
Sin, but
yeah. And then the other girl who had come in as a vampire, I'm pretty sure that's Tom Devlin's wife.
Okay.
Lola, who she helped write this. And Tom Devlin had asked her to direct it, and she's like, no, this is your baby. You direct it, and I'll help you.
And fast forward, so is she the one flirting with Jimmy?
Yeah, with Jimmy.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm pretty sure she's one of the vampires I know.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's that one.
Okay, because I got that one and the like Undead Ned assistant confused at some point.
Sure.
Because I wasn't sure where they were in the time frame. But I guess that girl was always with like the Undead Ned character.
And Undead Ned, to me, when I first saw it, I was like, "Is that Michael Cera?"
Oh,
like,
really?
Like he felt like he was like Michael Cera and Jesse Eisenberg had like a bastard kid.
Yeah,
and that's who. Yeah, that's who the Ned character was.
Yeah, or it was like the Glenn character from Seed of Chucky.
Oh,
grown
sure.
up in personified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really cool. And then, so one thing about, I think it's because it's in Vegas, but WWE guys are pretty prevalent in Devlin's movies.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
like
that.
Papa Shango.
Yeah, I knew. I saw that, and I was like, "Is that really him?"
Yeah,
like,
it was. Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, it's not." We don't have the budget.
Yeah,
for
he's
this.
not in the budget. And then Danny asked him to sign a picture, right? And in the next movie they did, Gangrel is like the main villain.
Oh, okay.
And Gangrel, I listened to the interview at the end. I talk a good bit because I've met Gangrel. I worked with him a little bit when I worked at the last baseball stadium. And
did you wrestle him?
No, but he wrestled Sabu when I was there. And Sabu, like, I mean, so he had died right before I interviewed Mr. Shields. It's been a little while ago now. Sabu had just died. But he like broke his back in the fight that I saw. Like, yeah, it was a hardcore fight, and they left. So, you know, it was a baseball stadium, right? And the ring was on the pitcher's mound. They left and went into the stands and started using like seats as
no
weapons.
way,
like, dude, it was sick. Yeah. It was one of the coolest things. I got paid to watch.
Yeah,
a
I mean,
wrestling match.
yeah.
And then we get a surprise flashing.
Yeah.
From one of the
See, I'm married, man.
Yeah,
so,
me too. My wife was watching this movie with me, and she was like, "What is going on?" Like, but again, that's probably something that's happened at a Devlin interview, right?
Yeah,
like,
you're just like, we're
he's like,
auditions,
hey,
and
that's not the audition we're doing here.
it's not the kind of movie we're doing. So wrap it up.
And you can notice, I don't know if it's just because it was the computer they had or it's an Easter egg. Zoe's computer, when she's doing the auditions, has a Tom Devlin's Monster Museum sticker on it.
Okay, I did not notice that.
So
you've watched this I've watched this once, and you have watched this
twice. Yeah,
okay,
I watched it when I did the interview with him, and then yesterday I watched it again.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But yeah, so this is, after the interviews and stuff, or the auditions, they go out to their car, and we get our first scene of Mr. Shields, right? He walks up as Eric, because he plays two roles in this. He's Eric and he's Teddy. And this was, I was telling him in the interview, this is so funny, because they ask him, they're like, what's your favorite part of the haunt? And he goes, killing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, cool, dude, you're hired.
But that was the brother, though.
It was Eric, yeah.
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 But it's not, like, they're two separate characters. They're not supposed to be the same character.
He told me technically he's two characters, but I don't think he's actually Eric. Like, he's posing as Eric, because he never introduced himself.
Oh, man.
They just assumed he was Eric.
That would have been, I know what you're saying, but then who's Eric?
I don't know.
Oh, see, now I'm thinking they should have, like, shown somebody, like, in a worker's uniform with, like, guys gouged out and everything and blood dripping down, and it says Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, because then, like, at the end, then you're like,
part of the reveal.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Because I had them as two separate people.
Right.
All right, so I figured that was the brother, and then Teddy was different, but I kept thinking, he looks just like that Eric fella.
Yeah.
Is that the Eric fella?
Well, and
it can't be.
In the big confrontation with Zoe at the end, we'll get there, but she goes, it's you. Like, she knows it's him.
Yeah. But you still have the whole connection to the story that we're about to go into, because after they meet him and after he becomes, like, part of the group, they have, like, this big fire, and they're all buddy and having a great time.
Kumbaya action.
And they like, so tell us what really happened here,
Yeah, they keep asking Danny to tell them what actually happened. And finally he's like, all right. So he starts telling them. And it's the delivery of this line is so funny. It's so cool to me that this is Michael Shields' first role. Because he was really good in what he did. And he's like, you're all full of shit. He's like, you want to know what actually happened? And then he went into a monologue, and he told me, and it's insane, that entire monologue was one take.
Really?
He got it all right in one take. Because Tom Devlin's rule for this movie was, we're only doing 3 takes total, and nearly every single scene was one take.
Well, he seemed like, he's like, you telling me this is his first movie, he seemed like a pro.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob Elmore recently passed away, and then you have Ari Mihailoff, and this guy kind of looked like them, and he looked like he could have played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 6 or something, like he just had that look that I think I've seen him before, but to find out that was his first movie, that's great. Yeah,
because I asked him that, right? Like, that's what I lead the interview with, because I was like, hey, according to IMDb, this is your first role. I was like, but it doesn't seem like it. Is it really? He goes, no, this is the first thing I've ever acted in.
Really?
He's like, I was a wedding photographer for a long time. He's like, I started working at this haunted house, and since I was playing Teddy, Tom Devlin rewrote the script so I could be Teddy.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
So we get more of the story now here.
Yes.
And this goes into a big flashback sequence, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Now you're telling me that this is only 10 years ago?
Yeah.
The story is only 10 years ago?
Yeah.
So the kid is there celebrating a birthday.
5 years old.
5 years old. So his mom is Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp series. His dad is Trent Haga from I think it's, I don't know if it's Terra Firma or Tromeo and Juliet, but he's a big Troma name, and he also did Killjoy, some of the Killjoy films. But so he gets some gifts, and then he gets this teddy bear, and he's hugging it and everything. You're thinking, okay, something's gonna happen here, right? But then you see like the story goes on to say that him and the little boy and his mom become really close, and like she's protective of him, and the dad's like feeling left out, and the dad constantly is drinking, right? And eventually like tears up the bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
He cuts its face off specifically.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, with that eye and everything, because it's like a button eye, big giant button eye. But then I guess he was like trying to help some woman with her jet ski.
Yeah,
and
we know why.
Yeah.
Very well endowed.
I can get it going for you. And then the family calls him away, but then eventually the jet ski girl and him, he's like in a tent or something. And she comes up to him and she starts like pogoing. I think she's pogoing. She's on a pogo stick in the tent.
That,
There's something where she's like, maybe it's a trampoline. She's bouncing. I don't know what she's doing. I can't figure it out. But then the mom comes in and sees this. Now she knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was like a game they were playing.
They're playing Twister.
Yeah, they were playing Twister. Or hopscotch. She was like bouncing up and down.
Hop something, yeah.
So then they have a fight. The mom and the dad, they have a fight, and there's a knife. The dad actually takes the knife from the mom.
Yeah.
And in the process, accidentally cuts her in the side of the face at the time.
Yeah.
And then because he gets bumped.
Right.
He gets bumped by the boy.
So the boy tries to choke him out, right?
Yeah.
Like he puts something around his neck, starts to try to choke him.
Yeah.
And as he does, the knife goes up and slits his mom's throat.
Yeah, at that point then, yeah, but now I later on in the movie, we realize that this is one of his tools. That choking out thing is one of his tools, and it's a yo-yo.
Yeah,
right. It's a giant like yo-yo. Because that was one of the gifts he got for his birthday was a Duncan yo-yo.
Yeah. Was
that the yo-yo that he was?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so
too.
They never make it explicit, but that would make
but I think
sense.
the yo-yo comes into play on the choking parts.
Right.
And then the boy then goes to the institution, right?
Well, first he, escapes, right? And, we're led to assume that he killed his dad as well.
Yeah.
And he's working at a haunted house. And the woman from the jet ski shows up with her boyfriend, and they walk around the corner, and Teddy's standing there.
Now, the boyfriend, I don't know, do you know this? The boyfriend is Warrington Gillette, who played a version of Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2. He was actually the one who, like the version of Jason, I believe, that comes through the window at the end of Friday the 13th. Oh, hopefully I didn't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen Friday the 13th Part 2.
That's who Shields was talking about then. I got it wrong.
Okay.
Earlier. This is who he was talking about.
So that boyfriend is Warrington Gillette, and he is known for playing Jason to like the mongoloid redneck looking in the overalls.
Yeah.
So he kills him.
Yep, and then he starts cutting
away like
off.
her face. Yeah.
Yep. And we're again led to assume that he might have killed her, right?
Yeah.
But they break it up before they can.
Yeah.
And they take his mask off, and it's just this dude, right? Like just some kid.
Yeah, it's just some kid, but it doesn't even look like. Okay, so then is that the 10 years ago, or was...
I think that's... No, it couldn't have been, because the 10 years ago was the kid.
Okay, so then that kid, I don't know what birthday it was. Maybe it was 10, 11, around that time. So 10 years.
Oh,
so when he's working in a haunt, he's probably, what, 21, 22?
Maybe, yeah, and he looks like he's 50.
Because remember, at the end, Zoe says the age doesn't add up.
Right.
If someone makes a comment about the age doesn't add up.
Right.
Okay. Because I'm trying to add it up right now.
Yeah.
Because this is what I wanted to talk about, when we get further down the road.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So, at that point, right, it's the day of the haunt. It's the first day of the haunt, and they're looking at all the security cameras Jimmy put up, and Zoe sees that they've drawn this giant teddy on the outside of the building. And she's livid about it. She's like, it's so, like, disrespectful. And he's like, no, like, this is legend. Like, this is what brings people out to horror stuff.
I didn't realize that at first. I thought she was upset about, like, the nursery stuff and, the little baby toys and things like that. I was like, what is she so mad about?
Yeah.
This is local legend of like babies and stuff. I didn't read because then I was like, oh, it's that giant Teddy drawing.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that to that point it was like, I think anyone would have done that.
Yeah.
I think anyone would have done that.
Absolutely.
Like if it was 10 years ago, you're trying to cash in because that was then Danny was like, oh, think of all that green we're gonna have. You can be upset now, but when we're counting our dough,
which was this was kind of a weird line that didn't work for me, right? Because earlier in the movie, Danny and Zoe are talking about buying the haunted house, and Danny's like, look, we can work 1 month a year, and that's it. Right? Yeah. And she's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And then in this moment, he's talking about all the money they can make. She's like, well, it's not about the money. He's like, yes, it is.
Yeah,
what else is it about?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that line. For me, Zoe didn't really work for me in this movie. Like, her character didn't really work for me.
I feel like she didn't have much to do late as the haunt started.
Other than being a final girl. Like, she was our final girl. Yeah.
Yeah, which leads to some good makeup effects.
Yeah, great.
Overall, all the makeup effects in this movie were good.
If nothing else, and I mean, I really enjoyed this movie, but the makeup effects and everything being practical, Tom Devlin's a wizard, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's unbelievably talented.
No, like, he's really into the practical effects. I really, really like that. I mean, he was actually, like, there was this story that I heard yesterday about, like, he called, like, the Chiodo brothers or something like that. Yeah, and, like, they told him, like, just not do it. Yeah. Blew him off and everything. And then ended up working with them later. Yeah. Yeah, and like mentioning, hey, you told me to hit the bricks, but, he's like, the one guy was like, no, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's really into the practical effects. Yeah. And that was really good to see in this because a lot of them looked really, really well done. Yeah. And like, especially when the haunt starts and everything kicks off. Yeah. It is great.
Well, and one of those, we'll get there, but one of the kills won Best Kill at a Las Vegas convention.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
So Michael Shields is an award-winning actor in his first movie because of one of his kills.
Wow.
And so one thing I wrote down here that, the little girl that we really haven't mentioned, but we need to.
But that's his daughter, right? That's Tom Devlin's daughter, isn't it?
I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Name's like Lila or Lola.
Lola's his wife, so maybe Lila.
Yeah, okay. So maybe that, I think that's his daughter.
Okay. But yeah, she, Zoe's helping her get ready, and she's asking Zoe, she's like, do you think the real Teddy will come back and kill more people? No. And she's like, no.
Yeah,
definitely not. That's just a story. Like, yeah. Yeah. And then, my next note is exactly what I was telling you. Like, we start having people coming through the haunted house, and it's actual footage of people going through.
Yeah.
And then we meet one of the biggest douches in a movie I've ever seen. The this better be good guy.
Oh, like, there's always one of those guys.
Well, he's definitely a critic, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely a dude that goes home and writes stuff on his blog about haunted houses. Like, he was a total douche.
Or he's like goes to McDonald's and he's like, I asked for pickles.
Yeah. Why am I only getting 2 pickles on my McDouble? Like, yeah. And then, I believe it's Tom Devlin. I think Tom Devlin is one of the patrons. It looked a lot like him. The guy that goes in with the ringmaster and drops his can and is like, pick that up.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
That's Tom Devlin.
That guy was a jerk, too.
Yeah. So, the ringleader, right, goes to get rid of the can, but it's a monster. It's an energy drink.
It's an energy drink.
Yeah, so he has to drink some, and as he does, we see Teddy in full Teddy gear behind him, and we get our first brutal Teddy kill.
Yeah.
And he chokes the ringmaster out with the yo-yo.
Yep.
And then it's so funny because then, the doucher's still walking around and he keeps touching everyone. And they're like, don't touch me, dude. Like, the rule that you were told is don't touch the monsters won't touch you. And he goes, no, I can touch you. You can't touch me.
Yeah. He was a real jerk.
Yeah.
And that's when he goes to the door
Yeah.
and Teddy appears.
Well, so he
right?
starts fighting with the two big guys in the meat room.
Yeah.
Right? He like fights them and they fight him back and they go, don't touch. It's so funny because they say it together. The big white dude's like, don't touch the monsters. And he throws them to the black dude and the guy's like, or the monsters won't touch you.
Yeah.
And then the door opens and Teddy's there and Teddy ganks him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and the one dude's like, oh, you're why are you in here, right? And then he gets killed, and that's brutal. Like,
You're talking about the black guy one,
Yeah.
right? Where, yeah, because he gets like gutted,
Yeah.
and you hear all the sounds. It's so visceral, and you're like, "Am I gonna see anything? Am I gonna see anything?" And they like pan down to like his shoes,
yeah,
and you see the blood just like dripping, and then you get the money shot of the guts,
yeah, the guts
coming down,
pouring out.
and I was like, "That is great, that is great." And the other guy is still alive.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What the fuck?" You know.
Yeah, and then so after he cuts his guts out, then he cuts his head off.
Yeah.
Like, he cuts his head off and it rolls off
Yes.
his body.
Yes.
Yeah. And then he kills the other dude too. So yeah, I mean, just the special effects, dude, are unbelievably good. And then we snap back to Zoe because she's like the front gatekeeper, letting people in, and she's looking for Danny. Meanwhile, the makeup ladies are flirting with Danny.
They thought Danny was too stressed out.
Yeah, they needed to. It was like the beginning of a porno.
Yeah, I was like they just do that? Is that what you do?
Yeah, I don't know.
And he was too stressed out, so
Yeah.
they had to help him.
Yep.
So he was distracted.
Yeah, he's very distracted. And then the clown is walking around. He's like, oh, man, this is going to be so much better than the last place we worked. And then Teddy's there and just puts the knife right through his skull.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it was just random.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I thought they were just headed back to the room. They're going to discover a body or something.
Yeah, because they were in the same room as the ringmaster.
Yeah,
but
right.
they left to chase down the douchey guy.
Yep.
Because he kept touching them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he got it. Then there was a girl clown with him.
Yep. And I don't think we see her die, but we know she does.
Yeah.
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 And then Nutty Professor's death was next. That was pretty wild. He has like that ball that you see at like Spencer's and stuff with like just different lights. And Teddy takes his head and slams it in and catches on fire.
And his face is just on fire. And I was like, wow, that is really cool effect too. Like it just doesn't stop. Like even like it was really like extended.
Yeah.
Like even when he's thrown down on the ground, his face is still like melting. You can see it within the flames.
Yeah.
I was like, that's super cool.
And then, the chainsaw fight is next.
Yeah.
The
chainsaw fight.
And that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool. I kept looking for, because like I think in haunts and like haunted hayrides and stuff, they take the chain off of the chainsaw. Now, so the guy working the haunt, I don't think had a chain on his chainsaw.
he every time he pulled, so in his audition, he was pulling out all these different chainsaws. None of them had chains.
Yeah. So this one though, that Teddy had a chain. Yeah. So you kind of already know who's going to win.
Yeah.
This,
right.
But they did clash a little bit. I saw that was choreographed. Very technically, it was slowly done so that things didn't get out of control.
Right.
But obviously, Teddy wins.
Yeah.
Chainsaw in the gut, right? Yep. All chomped up and stuff. And then we have the guy who comes in before that. He's like, oh, cool, chainsaw fight. It's going to be so awesome. You guys are so real. This is the best hunt I've ever been to. And then he sees that guy get gutted.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, no. And immediately, Teddy gets him as well. It was so cool. Like, this last, 45 minutes even maybe 50 minutes of this movie is kill after kill after kill after kill.
And the movie's only an hour and 20 minutes.
That's
so
right.
It's most of the movie.
That's right, yeah. Most of the movie is just balls to the wall,
because this is where
people out.
The death compilation starts, right?
Yeah.
He's just walking around killing everyone.
Yeah.
The evil Ned guy we didn't talk about his role. He was
showing movies or something.
He's outside at the end.
Yeah, because he was a horror host.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes to sell merch.
Showing all these movies. And the overly excited fan that was sitting in the front row of that movie that kept clapping for everything, that's Michael Shields' wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're very excited fan. Yeah. Oh, I just love this.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's his wife. And then, do you
Lola dies too, right?
Yeah.
The vampire, she gets killed too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you want to talk about any of the other kills in there? Because I didn't take a lot of notes on individual kills, like for the compilation or whatever.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. No, I just like the main ones that I remember the most and thought were really cool was obviously like, so I watched a lot of horror movies. So I want to be sure that I'm not saying like the ones that I've already, a different one that I watched the other night.
Sure.
But there was a shovel kill, right?
Yes.
With the face.
Yeah, that's a little bit later.
Yeah,
I think.
then crazy guy gets So no, nothing on the compilation. Just that all the kills were good, and it was a lot of chaos and havoc during that time. And you just, I think one of the points of like that compilation is that you really aren't there to like just analyze it and like really think about it too much.
Yeah.
You're like, everyone's dying.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, and it's so interesting too, right? Because then, like the cheater from the flashback makes an appearance. Right?
Yeah.
She runs up and she's got a clear scar on her face from where she was cut up, and she starts going at Zoe. So Zoe gets on the walkie. She's like, "I need Danny up here right now.
Yeah.
Like, I need help." Right? And she's talking to Jimmy, who's up in his control tower, and he's looking around all the rooms, and they're all empty. You don't see blood. I mean, it's black and white, but they're all empty. And your question is, if all these people are dying, where are they?
Yeah.
Right? The bodies have to be somewhere.
Right.
And then he sees that Danny is still in that room with the girls, so he heads to go get him.
Yep.
In the meantime, Danny leaves and goes somewhere else, and Danny actually shows up back at the control tower. In the meantime, Teddy has gone in and killed both of the makeup artists.
Both of those girls,
And then Jimmy is in there and finds the dead bodies. He's like, "Oh my God, Danny, what did you do?" And he pulls his knife. Meanwhile, Danny in the control tower sees him in the room with the knife out, and he thinks Jimmy.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. And I thought, oh no, here we go. Something bad's gonna happen here.
Right.
But at least they do run into each other then and talk, like figure it out. Like, said, I thought you.
Yeah,
like,
they're both like hunting each other down. And Danny even tells Zoe over the walkie, he's like, "Hey, like, I think Jimmy's killing everyone. Don't let anyone else in the haunt." And it's so funny because, again, for me, Zoe didn't work. Because then we pan to her, and she doesn't look scared or anything.
Yeah.
She's just like, "Hey, guys, we're closed," right?
Yeah.
And you have the angry patrons like, "What the hell? I've been here for an hour." Like,
yeah.
And then there's this guy, Chip, that's outside. I don't think he's playing Teddy, but he's out in, like, the toy box area.
Oh, you're talking about the guy with the hammer.
Yeah.
Yes. And
that
he's just like, that was great.
Awesome.
I forgot about that one. And that was actually what I wanted to bring up. Because, like, they're just talking. He's not, I don't think he's playing Teddy, but he might be.
Because I think...
Because there was a wax Teddy. There was a mannequin Teddy, too.
Right.
In the haunt.
Yeah. Yeah, because I couldn't figure out, and I think even on second watch I couldn't figure it out, but the toy box, right?
Yeah.
I think that's Teddy's lair, and it's not a part of the haunt.
That, like at the end.
Yeah.
Where all the bodies are.
Right.
Yeah, that is his toy box. They call it like that toy box. But
so that makes me question who Eric was supposed to be playing then, right? Like, wouldn't you think like they'd be like, "Where's Eric? Like, why is Eric not one of the haunts?"
Right. They didn't even ask that question.
No, not at all.
They should have.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
They even could have said like, "Oh, Eric ran off."
Yeah.
Like, or Eric, where's Eric?
Right. But no, they didn't. So that was.
See, now I'm sitting here and I'm just like stunned.
That was a little confusing for me then, because then I was like, oh, maybe he's actually playing, because they kept saying like, "Hey, Teddy's not in his room."
Yeah.
But what was his room? Or like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, Teddy's not in his room. I'm going to watch this again.
Yeah.
Because now I'm confused. Teddy,
Yeah, but the hammer kill was awesome, dude, because the guy's showing, like, Teddy everything the hammer can do. And then he turns around, and Teddy takes the hammer and hits him in the head, and it flies off, and it hits one of those, like,
the bell
circus things. Yeah, with the bell. Yeah.
But I actually thought, like, for that brief second, there's always this part of me, like, every time I watch a horror movie, sometimes I feel that there's going to be someone who the killer like might ignore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I thought the way that this guy was like excited to show him this hammer. And
Yeah.
he's like, hey, we're going to get these guys when they come around the corner. It's going to be great. And I was like, man, Teddy's probably just going to let him go or something, or he's going to kill people in front of him. Right. With the hammer, just like wipe out the whole crew.
Because if we go along with the assumption that he is Eric and Teddy are two different people, or if we go with the assumption they're the same person, like the guy at the beginning, the janitor, told them like, hey, here's a list of people that have worked here for a while, and Eric has too. So you would think Eric knew some of those people. Right?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
So maybe he's not Eric.
Yeah, I think... Well, I mean, Michael specifically said in the interview he plays two characters. So that would tell me they're different. But I don't know, because what Zoe says at the end tells me they're the same person.
So maybe we just have to ask Tom Devlin.
Yeah, we should.
What did you want to do with this, Tom?
Yeah.
What is Eric?
We're Pennsylvania horror guys, too.
Yeah,
so.
we're trying to figure this out. You got to let us know. And, but yeah, it was definitely a good kill. And I thought the hammer was awesome.
Yeah.
And just that little part of me was thinking he'll just let him go.
Yeah.
But nope. Gave us a really good kill though. So I'm okay with that.
And so then the part you were just talking about, Jimmy finds Teddy's hideout. Jimmy and Danny are there talking, right? And then you hear the first time Teddy has talked as Teddy, and he's like knocking on the door, and they're like, "Who's there?" And he goes, "Teddy." They're like, "Teddy who?" And he goes, "Teddy told me to." And then he opens the door and uses the shovel and kills them both. He hits Jimmy in the face with the shovel, shattering his face.
Well, yeah, it almost as if it's like it's almost like a slice, completely sliced off.
Yeah.
And so, the way that was, what it looked like to me was that the prosthetic front of the face was like attached to the shovel, actually. Yeah. It was kind of like boom, and then it came off. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Yep.
And with Danny then,
he just knocks him down and stabs him with the shovel.
And I really like that because a lot of times in movies, main characters don't die.
Right.
And in this one, everyone dies.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. Now there was one thing, and we'll just go through to the end.
Yeah, we're almost there.
But I'll bring up, I liked that Danny died.
Yeah, me too.
Because I knew then. I knew before this. I knew that there was no rules.
Yeah.
I knew before.
Well, there's no plot armor either, which I like. Because in a lot of movies, there's a lot of plot armor, right?
Yeah, but I liked, because I was okay with Danny dying. I was okay with anybody dying because I knew that this is the kind of movie that we were in for. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have, so you and I reviewed Clown in the Cornfield, right?
Yeah.
And there's the corn syrup gag in that.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the corn syrup gag in this one. Because Charles, the kid in all the different costumes, they go out and they see the blood, and he's like, "It's just corn syrup. It's fine." And he licks it, and he's like, "Not corn syrup."
Yeah,
he goes, "It tastes like pennies."
Yeah. I was like, "Wow." I always say it tastes like copper, but I was like, "Yeah, it tastes like pennies." Whenever I'm drinking blood, it always tastes like copper. Yeah.
And then, so Charles, goes to... I forget what he was going to do, but he leaves, right? And he comes around the corner, and Teddy gets him. And this is the award-winning kill.
Oh, this one?
Kill. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So he picks... Because I thought, when he told me that and I watched the movie, I thought the crazy dude, the mad scientist, would be the award-winning kill with the blood and everything. Yeah. But no, it was this one. They got best kill, and, he grabs Charles by the neck, puts him up on the wall, and just hammers his head until, and I'm going to quote Michael Shields on this, until his face was mashed potatoes.
And that was interesting because even in the makeup, and I could see this very clearly, was the face was still... Parts of the face were still there, and I thought, wow. Yeah. Because, you could have just done, a big, watermelon smash. Right. But this was just bang,
slow-mo,
bang, bang. And it was, as each hit happened, more face got mangled, and that was really impressive. I can see why that was award-winning.
Yeah. Yeah. My only question was, what did that kid specifically do to him that he hated him so much? Because he didn't brutally kill anyone else like that, right? He killed them all, but he didn't, sit there and smash their face or whatever. So I was like, yeah, what did Charles
What did he do? He was too enthusiastic.
Yeah. And then so Zoe like sees Teddy and starts running, right? She tries to hide in the meat room, and then she finds this like it's one of the props, but it's this like Negan style bat.
Yeah,
Or bat
yeah,
with,
with the nails and
in it.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, and so she, she's our final girl, right? She's gonna try to fight back, and then she goes to the toy box, and the question I had gets answered. That's where every dead body is.
Yep.
Is in the toy box, and
Right.
she doesn't freak out until she sees that Danny's dead.
Yeah,
She sees
like-
which is to me it's this movie had a commentary on like not corporate culture but like team culture and that
Yeah.
we're all family, we're all these things, but then she doesn't give a shit about anyone
Yeah.
but Danny.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever do an interview and they say we're family, don't work there.
Yeah, so now she got killed by that bat, though, right?
Yeah, so, but before that, we have our moment, and Michael told me this was the hardest scene to film. For some reason, they couldn't get it, this face-off.
Okay.
Because they're having all this dialogue, and, we find out in this moment, because she says, like, she goes, it's you, but the age doesn't line up.
Yeah, exactly.
And he goes, I'm Big Ted. I'm his dad.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was like, when that reveal happened, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I thought, why?
Yeah.
And I thought, where's the other? Where's the boy?
Where's the boy? I'm assuming the dad
Where's
killed
the boy?
him. Yeah.
So wait a minute. So then who did the boy still do the thing in the haunt when getting the lady's face sliced?
I think so, but I don't know, because that guy went to the insane asylum.
But didn't they say the asylum burned down and everyone died but one guy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it
so
was him.
it was Big Ted.
I think so.
Okay, so that was a little confusing for me because
Right.
I was like trying to understand.
I think they were just trying to give us red herrings, is all it was.
Okay,
But-
because you have this Eric, then you have like the boy, and then you have Big Ted.
Yeah.
And it would have been, I guess I would have liked to see the dynamic between the boy and Big Ted.
Yeah.
Where, the boy's crazy. Maybe they fight and then Big Ted kills the boy, or maybe Big Ted went and started to fire at the asylum, and
got the boy out,
Yeah.
like something like that. I don't know. And Michael talks about it a little bit in the interview. I don't want to give everything away for that because it
Yeah.
was a hell of an interview.
yeah, you gotta tack that
Yeah,
on here.
put it on here at the end. But he does say, he's like, it was really funny when I met the guy who plays younger Ted because he's like a foot shorter than me.
Yeah,
And he was a smaller dude.
yeah.
But yeah, so while Teddy is saying all these things to Zoe, she takes a knife and she stabs him.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Yeah.
maybe she killed him because like blood's coming out his mouth. But then
Yeah.
he immediately takes the hammer and gives us this awesome kill of him destroying her face.
Right, because a knife, that's kind of like there's psycho strength.
Yeah.
And whenever you're like a psycho like this guy, like Teddy, a knife's not gonna do it. It's like a pinprick.
Yeah.
He's just like, get out of here,
Yep.
bleeding, whatever, who cares?
But the thing we see then, which you were going to talk about with the character living, the little girl survives. And she's just sleeping.
How'd you know I was gonna talk about that?
Because you said earlier. You said you were going to talk about a character that lived.
Oh, I said a character that lived. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's the only one. But I
Yeah.
was going to point out with this because it was a little girl. She like wakes up
Yeah.
and then goes off with Teddy.
Yeah, so
Like,
Teddy
goes
has
and-
this cool Texas Chainsaw Massacre scene where
Yeah.
he's walking off into the sunset.
thought that
and
was
the,
it.
Yeah, the little girl runs up and grabs his hand.
Yeah.
And then the credits start, so you
Yeah.
think that's it.
Yeah.
It is not. Stay tuned because there's more coming. Right.
Right. But even to me, when that little girl lived, see that was like, okay, I can deal with that because she goes off and she takes his hand.
Yeah.
Now is she gonna be like the next, like his little like Teddy,
You
like
think?
a little one?
Maybe, yeah.
Because one of the things about Tom Devlin, he loves Leprechaun movies.
Yeah.
Big fan of Leprechaun movies. So it's a wee little fella, right? It's a wee man. And so you got this wee little girl. She could be the next killer because, they're both wee people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you watch the next scene, right?
I did.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
yeah.
we get the Jack. It's Jack. I have the note. The
Oh, the carpetbagger.
carpetbagger.
Yes.
And he's going in there, like he said, it bookends with another YouTuber. He's
Yes.
walking around.
Yes.
And then he turns and looks, and the little girl is in the Teddy
Yep.
outfit and kills him with a chainsaw.
Yep. Yeah. And then it also that freeze frame.
Yeah.
There was a freeze frame that was kind of reminiscent of like one of the like Texas Chainsaw movies again.
Yeah.
Where they do that kind of like a freeze frame and
Yep.
like the the beginning.
Yeah.
Or whatever. The one that was like in 2003 with Jessica Biel.
Yes.
There was a lot of freeze frames in that. I think there was a freeze frame at the end when like the cops were going down, and,
I think
you
you're right,
had
yeah.
those quick flashes of Leatherface and stuff. That was reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the girl.
Yeah.
But I was just talking about sequel wise.
Oh, well, so
I knew the girl did
listen,
that, but I was like sequel wise.
Listen,
Teddy Told Me to too.
Listen to the interview because I asked him that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't give it away.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna get to the interview here in a second, but just any final thoughts on this movie at all?
I liked it. I really liked it. It was better than it was like I went in with zero expectations.
Sure.
I think that was the best thing.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's into like ultra gory movies that take place in a haunt or anywhere, I mean, this was. You could move this.
Yeah.
You can move this like small town.
It could be a series,
house.
right?
Yeah.
You could put it anywhere.
Yeah, it was. I really liked this movie. I would watch it again. 4 stars.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely. I mean, I've watched it twice. I'm gonna keep watching it. So let's go to my interview with Michael. If you have, this is free on Tubi. The movie's free on Tubi, but in this, I also talked to him about where you can get some merch, and physical media for it. So yeah, that's been Teddy Told Me To. So let's hear from Michael. Friends, we are back with another exclusive interview. Today we're here with Mr. Michael Shields. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very happy you reached out to us on TikTok and let us know about this movie I hadn't heard of, and now it's one of my favorite horror movies. I had a really good time. And the movie we're talking about is Teddy Told Me To. So I believe this was your first movie. Is that correct? At least according to IMDb.
Oh, no, that is my first movie. Yes.
Awesome. So how did you get into acting? How did you get into, being a part of this movie?
Well, Tom Devlin's the director of the movie, and he used to be on this TV show called Face Off, which was a special effects makeup show back on the Sci-Fi Channel. And I believe he was in the second year, and he did a creation called Teddy Told Me To, and it actually won that week. Well, years later, he moves out to the Vegas area, and he opens up a monster museum of all of his effects and everything. And he runs a haunted house every year. And so I've been working at that haunted house for a couple of years. And one year he's giving out assignments and he goes, "Oh, I got something special for you, Michael." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." Because the first year he made me play like Jason Voorhees, but he stuck me in a closet that was so small I couldn't even move.
Oh,
So
no.
he goes, yeah, it was horrible. And I'm trying to start a chainsaw and I can't even move my arms. I'm like a little T-Rex going. But anyway, so he says, "I want you to be Teddy." I was like, "Oh, cool," because I knew the character and everything. And so toward the end of this haunt, he goes, "Oh yeah, we're going to be making the Teddy movie." I was like, "That's awesome. Can I be in it?" He's like, "Oh yeah, you're Teddy." I'm like, "Wow." So they'd actually rewrote the script entirely, changed it around from the original script to fit me to be Teddy. And that's how I got started in all this.
That's awesome. Have you been doing like haunted houses and stuff for a long time?
Actually, growing up as a kid, I used to scare the crap out of the neighborhood kids. They'd come trick or treating, and mom would have stuff in the front yard, and like we had a coffin in the front yard, and I would lay in it, and the kids would open it up. I would scare them, and I got more candy from them dropping it in there, running away, than trick or treating. So I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then, like I said, at Tom's, we started doing that, and every year that he's done it, I've done it now. Last year I was Michael Myers for like 2 or 3 years. I was Teddy, and like I said, with Jason. So, just have a lot of fun doing that.
That's awesome. Are you from the Vegas area originally?
No, originally I'm from Southern Illinois, a little
Okay.
town called Mount Vernon, which is about 75 miles east of St. Louis, and
Okay.
just a typical small little Midwest town.
Sure. What took you out to Vegas?
Um, I got a degree in photography, and I just could not find anything in the Midwest that I was liking. I moved to Florida. I lived in Louisiana, Chicago. My brother was out here in Vegas. He's like, "Yeah, come out here." I was like, "Oh, cool." And I have been out here for 30 plus years now. So Vegas is home now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, this movie, right, Teddy Told Me To, I mean, was a lot of fun, right? I had a blast with this movie, and it's one of those things that like I used to work at, you guys actually talk about it in the movie. You talk about Field of Screams. That's pretty close to where I am here in Pennsylvania. So I got to work
Right.
there. So it was cool to see like, a haunted house come to life in this regard. So, did you guys use the actual museum he had to film this?
Oh yeah. What we would do is during October, we would sit there and do the haunted house up until about 10 o'clock closing time. And then we'd end up shooting a lot of the movie afterwards. But you see certain scenes in the movie where there's crowds going through on surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
Those are just regular surveillance crowd stuff from that night, you know.
Oh, wow.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
I kind of thought
and
that when I saw it because they looked like they weren't like actors, right? It just kind of looked like it was people walking through like a haunted house.
correct. And that's the thing. The majority of the people in this movie are not really actors. I mean, obviously, this is my first movie. I didn't think myself as an actor at that moment, you know. Now that I've done a few movies, I'm like, yeah, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And
And do
I'm an award-winning actor because we actually won a award for best kill at the Las Vegas screening for the one where I beat the guy's head in with the hammer.
is that I was gonna ask you later, but since you brought it up, is that your favorite kill? Because that was my favorite kill in this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's my favorite kill. And
Yeah, that
nobody can notice this, I guarantee it, but every single time I killed somebody, I had the tiniest little bit of a smile on my face, you know, but with the beard and the mask and everything, you can't tell it. But
yeah.
I was like giddy like a little schoolgirl a couple times. I'm like, you know, so, but yeah. And the thing is, whenever we started this, Tom basically sat there and goes, okay, my main rule for doing this is we will not do more than 3 takes for any scene.
Okay.
And the majority of every single scene is 1 take. So it was the first take on every single one of them. Um, the one where I killed Sin Bodhi, the wrestler with the yo-yo,
Yeah,
that one we had to do a couple times because it was kind of hard to throw a weird yo-yo around somebody's neck and strangle them. But
sure.
other than
Yeah.
that, almost all of them are one scene kill.
That's impressive. Was it mostly, I mean, it looked like it, right? Was it mostly practical effects as well?
Oh, it was all practical effects. Tom being the special effects wizard that he is, he refused to do any CGI whatsoever, and so it was all practical effects.
And has that stayed consistent then through? Because I think what you have Nameless coming out soon, right? Which would be your fourth movie.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
and every single one is all practical effects, nothing, CGI'd whatsoever.
that's impressive. That's super
Yeah,
impressive. And I, I think I've seen that Face Off show. I'm pretty sure you said it was on Sci-Fi. I'm convinced I've seen it before, but I got to go back and find the episode that Tom Devlin's in.
yeah, yeah. It was a great show. I mean, before I knew Tom, we used to just watch it every week because the special effect makeup was unbelievable. And the one that he won on, like I said, was Teddy. And it was basically bring something that scared you to death as a kid to life. And he had a Teddy Ruxpin, which was actually part of the haunt, the original Teddy Ruxpin that triggered all this. And that's what made him make Teddy. And for years, people kept asking him, when are you going to make the Teddy movie? When are you going to make the Teddy movie? And he finally did. And this is his first time directing. So that was
Oh,
also cool. Yeah.
that was going to be my next question. So he hadn't directed before this one.
No, he'd always done special effects, but his wife Lola, who's the
Hmm.
vampiress in the movie, he had actually directed a few movies before, and he was going to try to get her to direct. And she's like, no, just you do it. It's your baby, and I'll help out whatever I can. But he did the directing, and he fell in love with directing. So now he wants to do that even more.
That's awesome. And I saw, yeah, Lolo is credited as one of the writers. So that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome that they did it together. So do they run the museum together then?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Have you always been a fan of horror? Like, do you have like a
Oh,
favorite horror movie or anything?
I have been a horror fan since I was a little child. So, one of my earliest memories, I swear I'm not making this up. I was maybe a year and a half, 2 years old, and mom and dad had went out one night and they left my older brother and sister to babysit me. Well, being the kid, I'm just running around, freaking out, you know, and I've got one of those onesies on with the little boot shoes things on.
Hmm.
I go running behind them and they're squat down in front of the TV watching Godzilla, the original 1954 Godzilla.
Oh wow.
And I looked up, I saw this, and I tried to stop to watch this thing. And next thing I know, my feet went out from under me. I've done the splits, and I didn't care how much pain I was in. I was just fascinated. It's like, oh my God, what is that? And ever since then, I have been it, and I'm a huge fan of the original Halloween. That's probably my favorite of all time, other than Teddy, of course. But
Sure. Yeah. We did a movie draft, like a bunch of different categories, and horror. Yeah, John Carpenter's Halloween was my pick. That's my
yep.
favorite. I love gory horror movies, obviously, because I enjoyed Teddy Told Me To. But there's something so unique about John Carpenter's Halloween that it's a slasher film with zero blood.
Oh, I
That's
know.
crazy.
Yeah, and I would just, like I said, I saw The Exorcist as a child.
Mm.
Nothing bothered me, but I would have friends of mine come over and I would get a hold of just some of the worst movies you could ever imagine, and I'd sit there and make them watch them. Like the first time I found out about Plan 9 from Outer Space,
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, I watched that and I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. I love it. And I literally would have people come over and I would sit there and go, okay, you guys are watching a movie tonight. And I made so many of my friends sit through that. It finally got to the point where they were like, find something else. I was like, oh, you really want that? So they would quit trying to watch movies with me because I would find the most obscure, bizarre stuff you can imagine. But to this day, I still do that. My wife is just like, oh God, what are we watching now? I was like, well, I've gotten a little better about not making her watch some of the stuff because I know she will not dig it, but it's always been good.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my wife more into horror movies, but she can't even watch Final Destination, so I don't think that's gonna happen.
well, my wife, she likes her scary movies and that kind of stuff. Um, the weirder and more bizarre it gets, though, the more she's like, nah, So, but like a straightforward slasher, Halloween, she'll sit through any day of the week, no problem with that. I think
Yeah.
hell, her ringtone is the Halloween theme song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and she's actually in the movie as well. She's the overexcited patron, and there's a scene outside where they're all at watching the movie outside, and they all get brutally massacred. Well,
Hmm.
she's the one in the blue and white stripe or blue and black striped shirt.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
she,
I remember seeing
yeah,
her.
yeah. So she is super excited that she got killed by me. I don't know how many wives can say that, but my husband killed me. I'm so excited.
There was oh, I can't remember who it was. Papa Shango or Papa Shango's in this briefly. I was say, are you much of a wrestling guy? Because I saw you also got to work with Gangrel, and I got to meet him before, and he's awesome.
Oh yeah, he's a super nice guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I sat there in the back room while our scenes weren't happening, and I talked to him for hours.
Oh yeah.
Some of it wrestling, but mostly just normal lifestyle. I used to be into wrestling a lot more as a kid.
Sure.
Um, I just, as it's grown older and everything, eh, not so much,
It's
you know.
not the same.
But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not the same.
I mean, at one point in my life, I was sitting there going, I should be a professional wrestler. And, my sister to this day still says, you should have been a wrestler. But,
You've
you
got the
know,
size for it, man. You definitely
oh, yeah,
do.
yeah, I've got the size and, everything, but nah. And, Papa Shango's in it. It's also amazing how many other big, iconic horror actors that we got in this movie. You know, Felicia Rose is in it. She plays basically my wife because Trent Haga, who is You ever heard of the Killjoy movies?
I don't think I have. No.
It's a crazy killer clown kind of thing back in
Okay.
the day, but he plays a younger version of me. And whenever I met him in the LA screening, I'm sitting next to him and he's damn near a foot shorter than me. And I'm like, but we also got CJ Graham, who was Jason in Friday the 13th, Part 6. We've also got Warrington Gillette, who was in Friday the 13th, Part 2 as Jason. And Lisa Wilcox, which was in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5. So, I mean, we've got quite a few big names, and these are all just basically friends of Tom's.
Oh, nice. Maybe people he's worked with
Yeah.
before or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I liked Lisa Wilcox's character. I think it's Jan, the real estate
Yep.
agent. She was
Yeah.
really funny.
Yeah. She was. And again, a sweetheart of a lady.
Yeah, that's really cool. I used to work for a professional baseball team, and we had a wrestling group come through, and it was headlined by Gangrel, and he fought Sabu that night. So even though they were both getting up in age, I
Oh,
got to see
damn.
them wrestle. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah,
Um, that,
that's awesome.
that
And that's sad about Sabu, like a week ago.
yeah, I was gonna say very recently he passed away.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to watch
Um,
him on ECW all the time.
oh yeah, yeah, me too. So, obviously you talked about the kills and things like that. What do you think was your favorite part of being a part of this movie? And then, talk about all four movies you've been in. What has been, the big highlight for you? Because being a horror fan forever, I can't imagine how cool it is now that you're a part of this. You're a part of horror culture. Like you're in horror movies and things like that. Like four movies in what, 3 years? That's crazy.
Actually, we got a fifth one coming out here. They're in post production right now, so it's five. So
Okay.
yeah, it's not even been talked about or anything yet. As far as your question, I approached the kills as if I was going to do this in real life, how would I do it? For example, again, the hammer kill.
Hmm.
If I was going to kill somebody with a hammer, I'm going to hit them the exact same spot over and over and over and make them into mashed potatoes. And that's exactly what I did. One of the other cool things that nobody notices except me, I'm sure, is I like to consider myself as the first ambidextrous killer. You notice
Oh.
there are times where I kill people left-handed. Whenever I stab Dot in the top of the head, the clown with the knife, that's
Yeah.
left-handed.
Okay.
When I killed Chippy with the big hammer, that's a left-handed swing. You know, because I used to play baseball quite a bit, and I would switch it that left and right, and as a kid I was sitting there going, well, I'm going to throw left-handed too, so I could throw left-handed and right-handed. So I basically taught myself how to be ambidextrous, and I always thought that was one cool thing that I know, but nobody else hardly knows. But thank you for letting me finally get it out into the universe.
I was gonna say
So
now they will, and I'm gonna rewatch the movie and pay attention to that now because you wouldn't even
yeah,
think of that.
oh, I know. Well, if you look like every Michael Myers kill, it's right-handed.
Right.
Every Freddy kill, he's got the glove on the right hand, so it's going to be right-handed. So yeah, I thought that was always kind of cool. And I liked that on this one, obviously, I am Teddy. But in the other movies, you know, I'm a background character in the Gangrel movie, The After Dark. I'm just a homeless guy. But hey, I had fun and I got another credit.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas Frankenstein, there's a scene in the opening where you can see me sitting in an audience, and then I'm dressed as a cowboy during the party scenes, which was cool. And then the next or the Las Vegas, I'm sorry, Nameless. I'm
Hmm.
actually the father of the killer on that one. And
Okay.
one of the cool things is I actually get shot in the movie, and so I die in the first time ever on screen.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, yeah, that I was like, woohoo! I'm not a Danny Trejo level of dying in every movie, but hey, I got one death finally. And, and then the other one we've got coming out later on will be called Bloody Bluff, and it's a Bigfoot movie set in the like 1800s, so it's a period piece.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and on that one, I'm the town drunk. And I was sitting there going, well, I don't drink anymore, but God, I remember those days. So no problem with this one. No stretch acting whatsoever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I've really gotten out of doing these movies is I am not the most social person in the world. I'm not big around crowds or anything like that. But because of this, I've got to talk to more people. And every time I'm on set, I will sit there and start talking to damn near anybody and everybody, which is really good for me. So it's actually helped me in quite a bit, which again, it's something most people wouldn't think of, but hey, it really does help. So it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't been in any films or anything. I'm trying to. I've done a lot of theater acting, and I can tell you that being a theater actor, it's the same thing, right? You're around these people for all the time. You got to get out of your shell, and then you're in front of a crowd. So I mean, you can't, you can't be what's the word for it, like socially awkward or anything because you've got to be putting on a performance. So it definitely helps you grow personally for sure.
Right. And, you know, I've had other jobs in the past. My main thing was I was a wedding photographer for years out here in Vegas, and I did weddings in the Grand Canyon Valley of Fire, which is a state park. And, you know, no matter what my day was like, I had to be somewhat happy around these people, because
Hmm.
it's their wedding. So, yeah, I've acted pretty much my entire life, you know, because there's been times where I'm taking photographs of people that I just could not stand. But,
Yeah.
I can't sit there and let them know that. So, hey,
Right. Still need to get paid, so you got to be
well,
sociable for that, you know?
exactly.
You talked about something interesting that I wanted to leads to my next question. So the idea that, the first film you're dying in is the most recent one. So you didn't die in Teddy Told Me To. Can you? And if you can't tell me, that's fine. Is there potentially a sequel coming to this movie?
There is talk of it, but right now, the movies through Tom and everything are kind of being put on hold for just a little bit because he's got a couple of movies that they're working on as far as special effects and also, the stuff that he's done that they've got to do to finish up. Plus, they're gearing up for the haunted house in October.
Sure.
So after that, yeah, we may talk about, doing a Teddy Told Me to too. Teddy Told Me to too. And, so we'll see. I would love for it to be that, but again, that's not my control or my choice, but we
Sure.
shall see.
Yeah, I think I saw an
Yeah.
interview where he said they wrote a script, but he said something along the lines of this movie needs to get popular so people ask for it instead of him just making it.
Right.
So,
And
um,
and that's what I'm trying to do on TikTok. Like I reached out to you, damn near anytime I find somebody who is a horror fanatic, does reviews or whatever, I send that message to everybody. And
yeah,
I'm just trying to get the voice out to the people about this movie so, it catches on, it becomes a cult hit, a cult classic. Because honestly, one of the biggest things I would love to end up doing is go to conventions and sign stuff.
oh yeah,
Again,
that would be
yeah,
awesome.
going back to I'm not a big fan of people and crowds and that kind of stuff. I have never been to a horror convention because I don't want to go into a crowd like that. But if I'm behind the desk, oh hell yeah, that would be awesome. You
Yeah,
know,
like people,
and
because people specifically go to see you, right? Like they're lining up to see you specifically.
yeah,
So that would be
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. So but that's my whole point of just trying to get the word out so more people find out about this movie and watch it. And the word that I hear more than anything else about this movie is fun. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, there are tons of kills. I think there's 36 kills total.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And technically 34 of them are my kills. There are a couple others that, are Teddy variants, let's say.
Hmm.
But, you know, and there's a lot of blood and guts and gore, you know, and so I just want people to sit there and watch it and enjoy it. It's not the scariest movie ever made. It's never going to be that, but We had fun doing it, and it is a comedy somewhat. So hey, I will take fun anytime that somebody says it's a fun movie.
Yeah, yeah. Horror comedies are one of my favorite. Like, I mean, Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies ever made.
Oh
Like
yeah,
horror, it's a great blend of, you've got the gore, you've got the some scary moments, but it's also like meant to be funny and enjoyable. So I think you
right.
guys knocked it out of the park with this one. I really do.
Well, cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you know your other movies that you've made with him? Are they also on Tubi, or where can we find those?
Um, Las Vegas Frankenstein and The After Dark are both on Tubi,
Okay.
and you can actually order DVDs of every single movie if you go to Tom Devlin's Monster Museum or Plan 10 Pictures, and they will actually have available to buy DVDs. So, and
Perfect.
I'm gonna be making a TikTok video because I'm not good at making TikTok videos, but I'm gonna make a video about, hey, you guys can buy copies, because I have people every so often. And one of the honest to God coolest things to come out of this, we got we partnered with Terror Threads, which is a t-shirt company, and they've got a Teddy t-shirt that you can purchase. But
Nice.
my all-time favorite thing is I actually got an action figure out of the deal.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
I wish the hell the video was working right now because I got my little action figure in the case right now, sitting there going, wish I could show it. But yeah, when I heard there was going to be an action figure, I went, no way. You know, I was like, oh my God, this is legit. I'm an actual movie star.
Well, if you can see all of the stuff behind me, right? Like I'm a big pop culture, whatever. And if you look right here to my right, I buy the physical media for every movie I review. So I'm gonna have to buy this movie, but if it'd be cool, I'd like to send it to you and have you sign it to put it in the studio here.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I have no problem with that.
Sweet. I might even do it for the action figure too. I can put it up there beside my stormtrooper. That'd be awesome. So yeah, cool. We'll connect on that after. Got a couple more for you here. Do you specifically have any upcoming projects you want to plug other than the ones we've talked about? Are you looking into acting in anything other than with Mr. Devlin, or is it mostly sticking with him?
Well, I legitimately would love to do anything else. I love Tom and I will do any and everything he ever asks of me, but I've got the acting bug now.
Yeah.
And there's talk of a couple more things here and there, but nothing in concrete yet.
Okay.
And I've also got in my head an idea for a movie that my mind is really disturbed anyway. And so I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, that would be one of the most awesome kills you've ever seen on screen. And I'm sitting there going, okay, okay. And I'm not a screenwriter by any stretch of the imagination, but I have kind of thought about trying to, write a screenplay and, go from there. But,
Yeah.
there's a possibility I might be a killer Santa at some point.
Oh,
It's just,
okay.
yeah. One of the other guys in the movies, he's done a couple of Killer Santa movies, and I honest to God, I don't remember what they're actually called. But like one of them, Drew Marvick, who's Duke the Chainsaw Clown,
Oh yeah.
he's yeah, he's one of the Santa Clauses in number two. So and he did a Pool Party Massacre. He's the director of that.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah. So I'm always trying to get Drew to sit there and go, okay, give me in a movie, give me, So I've met a lot of filmmakers through this, so I'm always asking, like we had a premiere over in LA for Teddy, and we were doing a question and answers, and I know there's people out there that make movies, and I flat out sitting there and said, hey, if anybody's looking for somebody for a movie, I'm your guy, So I'm just advertising, and hopefully somebody will sit there and go, yeah, we'll give this guy a chance. So
Yeah. I had an interview earlier today with the director of a movie called A Halloween Feast. That's another free horror comedy on Tubi. I would check it out. It's super cool,
Yeah,
super bloody. But you know, I said to him, I was like, "Hey man, I'm looking to make the transition from theater to film. So if you film anything on the East Coast, or even if you want me to come out to the West Coast, you know, I'll do it because I kind of have the mentality of you do. Like, you know, worst somebody can say is no, right?
exactly. Yeah. That's what I used to be a salesman, and that was my thing. What's the worst I can say? No. Okay.
Right.
Woo. Your day's not destroyed from a no. Yeah.
You can get
And
20 no's, but if you get one yes, you're in.
exactly. And so again, I will see somebody on TikTok who's a filmmaker, and I'll sit there and send them, hey, watch me in this movie. I don't sit there and say, hey, if you want to add me to yours, but you never know. Somebody may sit there and see it and go, that guy's just good enough or weird enough that we should put him in there.
Yeah.
The one I have reached out to a couple times and never heard back yet is Rob Zombie.
Oh,
I
sure.
would Yeah, I would love to get in with Rob Zombie, and no disrespect whatsoever, but since Sid Haig has died, he needs a new Sid, and I'm pretty close.
Yeah.
So
So you said about liking Halloween. Did you enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween movies then too?
yeah, I actually did. Um, I liked them better than the last three that came out. What were those? The Blumhouse ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, um, but I've been a fan of Rob Zombie's music and movies, forever. So yeah, and did you ever happen to see the Haunted World of El Super Beasto?
I don't know that I did. I know I've heard of it. I'm not sure that I've ever watched it though.
It's a cartoon, and Rob Zombie's like a producer of it, and Sherry Moon, his wife, is one of the voice actors in it, and it's just one of the most bizarre, weird little things you've ever seen. And again, that would be one I'd sit there and make friends watch. I was like, "Hey, check this out," and they're like, "Oh God." Yeah. So yeah, I've reached out to him a couple times, and like I said, I don't know exactly how to personally get a hold of him. So at some point I'll figure it out. But yeah, I
Sure.
would love to do more. And I've actually, just for fun, I've thought about maybe even trying to do some stage stuff, but you know, who knows? I got
Yeah.
to get off my butt. I got to get off my butt and go somewhere and find out. This is Vegas. It's got enough stuff going on.
Right.
And the other cool thing is, I believe it's Mark Wahlberg is opening a big movie studio out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're talking like a major movie studio out here. I mean, a lot of stuff is filmed in Vegas to begin with,
Right.
but this is going to be big time. So, once that gets closer, I may go over there, drop off resume and reels or whatever it's called, and you know, yeah, you can tell
Yeah.
how professional I am. I think it's a reel.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
Yeah. Because you, excuse me, you can like, you know, take clips of what you've done, you know, and the one thing about it too, right, that you've kind of got a leg up on other people. Yeah, you play the serial killer in this who doesn't talk and does things, but you also have the role where you are talking, doing things. I think my favorite moment with you in the movie is the campfire scene when you're
Yeah.
telling the story of Teddy.
Yeah, that was really cool. Technically I got to play two different characters. I was Teddy
Right.
and Eric.
Yep.
And yeah, I told the entire backstory, and I was so proud of myself. I did that all in one take. I did not
No
mess up.
way.
Yeah, I did not mess up or anything. And again, back to the rule of three, no more than three takes. The final scene between me and Zoe, where we're talking back and forth, I don't know what it was, but that was the hardest scene for us to get
Hmm.
because we just could not get it going. I don't know what was being said or what. But I think that one took four takes. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the campfire scene, that was, all one voiceover and that was it. So
Yeah, and I think my favorite line you deliver in the entire thing is when you first meet Zoe and oh, what was
Danny,
his name? Danny. Yeah, thank
Danny,
you.
yeah,
Yeah, when you met Danny and Zoe, and they're like, "What's your favorite part about a haunted house?" And you go, "The killings."
killing, killing.
Oh, that was great, man. Well, that's kind of all the questions I have. Is there anything else about this movie or just you in general you want to talk about? Let people know?
No, I really do appreciate this. And like I said, just trying to get the word out on Teddy and get as many people's world as possible to watch it. And again, you can get physical media from Plan 10 Pictures or Tom Devlin's Monster Museum. And thank you again so much. I appreciate it.
Yes,
And
sir.
you
Thank
guys have a
you.
wonderful rest of your day.
You too. And we'll try to help get the word out as much as we can in this movie because it was a lot of fun. It was really good. And you were very impressive in it. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Not too bad for a farm kid from the Midwest. So
yeah, not at all. I had no clue, like watching this movie until I looked at the IMDb that it was your first one. That's
yeah,
crazy to me. So, well done, sir.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
So, all right, guys. Well, that's been the Real Friends podcast, and we will see you next time.